Hey everyone, this is Kevin from the chesswebsite.com, and today we're going to be looking at the Scandinavian defense, which starts out with pawn 2e4, black responds pawn d5, and white capturing on d5. And there are two main lines that you'll see from black, and those are the ones that we're going to take a look at today. The first one is knight to f6, and the second one is queen to d5. And we're going to go over the main lines for both of those and talk about what both sides should be thinking about when they play that. First one that we are going to look at is the less common, and that is knight to f6. Attacking the pawn here on d5, but not taking back immediately as he would with queen to d5. And he would do this for two reasons. One is he want to get to upper hand in development with very active pieces, or he may think that he just is going to get that pawn in a few moves. It really depends on how white plays in response to knight to f6. And white has a few different things. If white wants to hold on to this extra pawn, which a lot of players do, white can come down to pawn to c4, holding on to this pawn on d5. Now black has a few options from here. The most common that you'll see is playing pawn to c6. This kind of has a Cauer-Khan defense to it, but if white captures on c6, black can take with his knight on c6. He has two very active knights. He has great development, he has great center control. Even though black is down a pawn, he's actually in very good position here and has good compensation for the pawn that he's down. The more common that you'll see after pawn to c6 is white moving pawn to d4, giving back the pawn that we can take on d4 if he wants to capture. But as you can tell here, we've given back the pawn advantage, but the development is about the same. We can now develop our knights, and black does not have a development advantage or a center advantage that he had before when we captured on c6. So you may see this. Another thing you may see, instead of playing c6, after he plays c4, black has the option of playing e6, which is the Icelandic gambit, and after white captures on e6, black can recapture on e6 with his bishop. And as you can see, black is down a pawn, but all his pieces are very active. He has a developed knight, he has a developed bishop to e6 here, and his queen has this open file. He's attacking this pawn on c4, and all his pieces look very active, where white really doesn't look like he has many active pieces. He has a random pawn on c4, but none of his pieces have moved anywhere. This is actually my favorite, the Icelandic gambit, just because I like to play very aggressive, and this is a very aggressive defense for black. So that's what you may see if they start out with c4 and they try to hold on to it. But white may not always try to hold on to it. The actual main line is for white to play d4, giving back this pawn on d5, knowing that if he doesn't play d4, then black can get a lot of spatial and development advantage. So many times you'll see white play d4, giving back this pawn on d5. From here, if black takes on d5, regaining the material back, white has a few options. The first option is two ideas. One would be to play c4 first, and then black can choose if he wants to play knight to f6, which is a very passive move. You never really want to move your knight back to the same square that it came from. It's kind of a wasted move. A lot of times you'll see knight to b6. As you can see, we're already starting to put a lot of pressure on black. That's one idea. Another idea white may have is to first play knight to f3, and then when bishop plays bishop to g4, pinning our knight here, then we can come in with our pawn to c4. It looks better for black. He has his bishop developed, but now when he plays knight to b6, we can actually spring a trap on him and play pawn to c5 here. Now he has three options. Very, very passive would be to put his knight on c8. Now his knights aren't doing anything. He can also put his knight on d7 and d5. d5 looks a lot more active than d7, but if he does play d5, we can bring our queen to b3, and this is actually going to be very good for us. We're attacking this piece here on d5, and at the same time we're attacking the b7 square, which is our main target here. So this will be very good for white. And even if black plays knight to d7, as you can see, black is already starting to cramp his style, and we can continue our development. We can even bring our bishop to e2, and then we can castle kingside, but this is going to be completely fine for white. So another thing you may see instead of knight f6 is going to be the main line, and that is with queen capturing on d5. And you're going to see this most times than not. From here, the most common move for white, and what I recommend, is knight to c3. And this does two things. One, it develops your knight to c3, and it gains a tempo, meaning that black is going to have to move his queen because right now he's being attacked. And you never really want to move one of your minor pieces or your major pieces more than once in the beginning if you don't have to. Obviously, black has to right now since we're attacking it. But black has a few moves here. His worst move, I would say, out of the three that people play, would be queen to d8. This is just a super passive move. Why move your queen back to the same square that it came from? More common that you'll see is a move like queen to d6, which is the Bronstein variation, or the main line is going to be queen to a5. It's a very active square for the queen. If you're going to bring your queen out, more than likely you want to keep him active. No point in putting him back on d8 since that's where it came from. There's nothing white can do right now to kick this queen out of the way. One of the key things that you want to think about when you're white or black, a lot of beginners always have the thought in their head, if a queen is out, they have to try to trap him right away. That's usually a mistake. If the queen's out, what I recommend is just develop your pieces like normal. If you're going to trap a queen, you're going to be able to trap the queen once your pieces are developed. You're not going to be able to trap a queen with one developed piece out. So first develop your pieces, and then if the queen is still out there, then you can start looking for a trap. But too many times players fall into a trap of their own because they try to chase around the queen, and next thing you know, they're down a rook or they're checkmated, all because they were chasing around a queen. Just develop your pieces like normal. Once your pieces are developed and you have king safety and the queen is still out, then go after it, but not before. It's just a huge mistake. From here, white can play pawn to d4, again simply developing his pawn to a great square. And from here, a lot of players that play black, the Scandinavian defense, it's kind of a variation of the Caro-Kann. So from here, black will normally play pawn to c6, the Caro-Kann defense. And from here, white's going to continue simply developing his knight to f3, a good development square, putting pressure on the center. From here, you may see black move knight to f6, good development square. From here, black's going to take center control with his bishop to c4. From here, you may see black may even put his bishop on g4, pinning our knight down, that's fine. Or you may see bishop to f5, very good square, putting central control. And then from here, bishop to d2, getting ready to castle, moving his queen, correcting the rooks, normal opening procedure. And then from here, black's going to continue with pawn to e6. And most players that play Caro-Kann like to have their pawns on c6 and e6. Definitely would like to have their bishop out before they do that. You don't want to block your bishop in first. And then it takes on a normal play of a game. Anytime white wants to start attacking this queen, the queen can always retreat to a square like c7 if he needs to, depending on if the file is open. He can always come back to d8. Black's going to have a fine game, white's going to have a fine game. It's really going to come down to the middle game here, but as you can see, this queen that came out early, it's not really doing anything. Yeah, it's a pain that we have to worry about it, but it's not really attacking anything. And white can try to kick this out, but black, after this c6 play, has a very good outpost that he can bring his queen to. So these are some of the common things you'll see in the Scandinavian defense. Hope you guys learned a lot. If you haven't already, please subscribe. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys next video. Thanks for watching.